What's up, guys? It's Lucky, and it's Battlefront time, and today I'm gonna be kicking ass and taking names as the Rebel. Yes, despite what the internet says, and I know everybody's saying it, you can win as the Rebels, and you can do it the vast majority of time, and today I'm gonna teach you how to do that, give you some kind of well-known secrets, and some lesser-known secrets. I'm going to cover basically the basic mechanics, so bear with me for about 2 minutes while we go over the basics, and then we'll get into the good stuff, the tips and tricks, and I got even some stuff for some older people. Now, first, every single game takes place across 3 stages. Stage 1 happens here in front of the base in the mountains around the fallen walker, and Stage 2 happens inside the rebel base and just outside. And then Stage 3, what happens there is it moves out into the plains territory. So every game has those 3 stages, and it takes place, it's a timed event. Everyone lasts about 5 minutes a stage. And it has 2 distinct phases in it. So it always begins with basically capturing it. Now, if you look up at the progress bar, you can see where you're at in every stage. So you can see it progress. The first stage ends with a dot, second stage ends with a dot, and then the last stage where you're in the forest plains, and when that dot is filled. When it gets to the dot, that means the Y wings are going to come in. Now the first part of each stage is capturing basically uplink stations and holding them long enough to get Y wings, and you want to get Y wings, and I'll go into that into a second. And then the second stage is attacking the walker. The Y wings come in when it gets to basically that circle dot. Once that gets filled, then the Y wings come in. You'll see a little timer like start to pop up right here that tells you the Y wings are about to come, and the second they launch their attack, you'll get little hit markers over the walker. That is the only time you can do damage. That is the only time that you can do damage to the boss. Okay? And this is the time for you to hit the boss. Now, one thing you should be aware of, and why you need to pay attention to the progress bar and know where you're at, is because the spawns change at the end of each stage. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to get into spawns after I give you some other good stuff. But I will get into that. But you want to be prepared, because the spawns are going to shift and you're going to get caught behind enemy lines once that shift actually happens. So like I said, the first stage is capturing uplinks. When you capture uplinks, basically what you're doing is locking in Y wings, and you want to lock in as many Y wings as possible. Now if you look up there next to the progress bar, you can see basically the number of Y wings that you have locked in, and each Y wing brings you approximately like about 15 seconds to do damage to the walker. The more Y wings you have, the more time you have to damage walkers, and this is the only thing that's not really set in stone in the match, right? This is really where it varies, and this is where it's performance, and that's why I'm gonna say this again, it's so important to play the objective. Don't just sit up on the top of a mountaintop. Basically, like we've got 9 Y wings here in this particular example, and that's going to allow us to hit the walker for almost 2 minutes, about 15 seconds a Y wing. Okay, and once you get the sound basically that you're about to be able to hit it, you see the progress bar got close to the dot. I got in a position where I'm going to be able to hit the boss. Then I'm immediately going to go, and the second they hit, you've got to start doing damage to the boss. And I'm going to say this again, and I'll say it again later, and I'm probably going to say it over and over again, but it's about playing the objective. You've got to play the objective. It is so absolutely critical to this game. Now, please use turrets to damage the boss. You can shoot them with your gun, and I see so many people just sitting there and they're just shooting them with their gun over and over again. You're not doing nearly enough damage to it. get to a turret. There are turrets there. Usually there's turrets farther back where your next spawn is gonna be. Get to those turrets. They usually have a line of sight on the boss. So like here, I'm using ion shot, which is a reasonable choice to do more damage than a normal shot, or even your cycler rifle. But it's still not nearly as much damage as the kind of damage that you're gonna put out if you're using a turret. So please get to your turrets. And here you see, this is the rebels winning in the second stage. So it can be done. Despite what people say on the internet, it can be done, and it can be done well. Now, let's get into the next thing. Let's get into the good stuff. I want you to take a very good look at this right here. This is an orbital strike, and this is the rebels' secret weapon. It is the creme de la creme. It is the cream of the crop. It is the golden egg that the goose laid. Watch what it does to this walker right here in stage 1. Watch it. This is stage 1. The bombers just came in. We only have 4 Y-wings when this began. One good orbital strike will just about level a walker. It will completely level a walker. Now, how to use them. One, they're random, and you only get about 1 orbital strike per stage, unless somebody uses theirs, and then it will respawn. So if somebody uses their orbital strike, it will respawn, but if you get it, hold on to it. Find a good vantage point that's safe. You want to lead your shot, because it takes about 1 to 2 seconds for it to arrive, and the walker is going to walk into it. And you want to make sure like you have enough time. In this case, I only do about 50-60% damage to the walker, because there wasn't enough time on the clock. And that's why it's so very important that you've got to capture those command points. It is amazing what these orbital strikes can do. This is, you are going to get at least, the rebels are going to get at least 3 orbital strikes a game. And there's only 2 walkers. There is no reason why the rebels should lose at all. Despite what people are saying on the internet, if people are using their orbital strike correctly, I got this one just seconds before this in the last second. Bam, boom, jump down. Here comes the orbital strike. Rebel victory. It will happen again and again and again. But you need to buy them time. So here's my next, this is a little piece of tip right here. When the game starts, do not waste any time in the menus, do not waste any time picking your gun or anything else. Spawn in the very second you can, okay? And I want you to run to the closest one, because honestly, the very first stage, stage 1, is the best time to get the most Y-wings, and it's your best opportunity to do the most damage to the walker. Get there, capture those, and basically defend them. Now, I see lots of people, they're sitting up sniping, they're running around shooting people. You can shoot 100 people in this game. It's not going to win the game for you as the rebels. The Empire can sit back and do nothing, but the rebels have to play the objective. But if you do play the objective and you use your orbital strikes, not to mention your snow speeders, which I'll get to later, you're going to win the vast majority of the time. Now, if you're the Empire, you need to shut those things off. And rebels, once you capture it, then you want to sit back and you want to snipe anybody who gets close. But if you're the Empire, you've got to keep these guys from activating it. Because really, it only takes 2 or 3 Y-wings for an orbital strike to wipe you out. And so you have got to shut them down. So the onus really is on you. I mean, basically to stop the rebels. Because if the rebels use their tools that are given to them in the game well, and that's the problem, is people are noobs and they're not using their stuff well yet. Once people get to using their stuff well, the rebels are going to win way more than 50% of the time. This game totally and completely favors the rebels. But enough on that. I want to cover two other topics real briefly. I want to cover basically air supremacy, but first I want to cover spawn points because there's a lot of talk about basically being spawn trapped and stuff. So it's important to know the spawns. So each team has 2 spawns per stage. In stage 1, they're around the fallen walker. You have spawns up in front of the base. And then the Empire has spawns way farther back down at the bottom of the hill. They have 2 spawn points there. And then in stage 2, once the Y-Wings have finished their attack, then the spawns flip. And you don't want to be, like I said earlier, you don't want to be caught on the flip side of that, because the Empire's spawn points move up to very near where the Rebels' spawn points were before. And the Rebels' spawn points move inside the base and basically just outside the base. And then they flip again in the 3rd stage, with each side again only having 2, with the Rebels spawning in the back of the frozen plains and the Rebels and the Empire spawning basically at the front of the frozen plains and also up top of the hill near the exit of the base. So, which actually is somewhat tough for people during stage 2. Now stage 2 is somewhat of a problem, and I want to cover that real quickly, because a lot of people what happens is if you die during the Y-Wing attack in stage 2 and you spawn in there, you're gonna go into this hallway and it is clogged with people all the time. If you try to go out the back door on that side to get to the frozen plains, if you wait basically to the Y-Wing to attack to do that, you're going to find the smart Imperial team has got the AT-AT covering that door, or I've even seen a chicken walker placed directly in front of that door shooting anybody who walks out of it. So if you do happen to get trapped, the best thing to do is to go out the very far side of the hangar out into the stage 1 area. There's actually, through that side door, there's lots of basically pickups there, and you're liable to find a vehicle turret or basically a rocket launcher or something else that you can do damage. And usually Empire has moved up by that point, and you're in a position basically to do damage on it from behind and hopefully inflict some damage, and then worry about getting down to your spawn. But really, the key thing there is, this is my final tip, is fall back. And this is the tip that you're not going to hear from anybody else, that people haven't really got the hang of yet. Before the Y-Wing attack comes, like a good 30 seconds before, if you die right there before the Y-Wing attack comes and you respawn in and you look up and you see that the Y-Wing attack is about to happen, go ahead and fall back. Fall back to a turret that is safe, that is going to be outside of where the next spawn point is going to be, and it's going to put you in a smart position to capture the next set of uplinks the second that Y-Wing attack is over. One, it will keep you out of trouble. It will get you to turrets that aren't immediately in the line of fire and will allow you to do the most damage on the walker, and will keep you from being spawn trapped. So do what they say in the movie. Fall back. Retreat. The rebels need to retreat before the Y-Wing attack. And last, we're going to cover basically snow speeders. A single good snow speeder can take out both walkers. Admittedly, there is a problem with one of the walkers, the walker on the right side, in the fact that it's too close to the mountain until the very, very near very end. Till it's really almost too late. Otherwise, you hit the mountain and die. And I can guarantee that this will get patched. But I have seen more than one occasion people have taken out both walkers. The problem is that TIE interceptors, during the first stage, X-Wings and TIE fighters spawn in. During the second stage, you have A-Wings and TIE fighters. And during the third stage, you have snow speeders and TIE interceptors. The problem is that the TIE interceptors vastly outclass the snow speeders. I mean, by a long shot, and they're just sitting ducks. If you have a couple of good pilots who can get into an X-Wing or an A-Wing and stay in the air, I had a buddy who is a great pilot. He got up in the air, and I'll show you the footage later. That was basically a double walker takedown with a snow speeder. one X-Wing was in the air, he was able to take out the TIE interceptors, cover the snow speeders, and allow the snow speeders to do their job. So if you can get somebody good up in the air in the first 2 stages and stay up there and clear out those TIE interceptors, you're in a good spot. But other than that, you can't necessarily count on your snow speeders because they're going to be outclassed by that TIE interceptors. But I do want to say that I actually expect that probably these issues around snow speeders will get worked out prior to game's release because of the people complaining about it. But again, they're not a deal breaker, and the Rebels should still win. Even if you don't hit your orbital strikes, if you capture your Y-Wings and get plenty of time to do damage on the boss, you're going to win the game. If you hit orbital strikes, you hardly need any time to do damage on the boss and win the game. And if all else fails, your snow speeders can win the game. There are so many opportunities for the Rebels to win. Guys, if you coordinate, if you play the objective, you will win. Now, hope you enjoyed this. This is Lucky signing out. Have fun on the battlefront. Take it easy. Peace.
The Imperial Walker has been taken out.
That AT-AT has sustained serious damage. Focus fire. Direct all firepower on that walker.